So here, we are going to address a very, very important and crucial point in modeling. This point is the components. The components, well, you probably haven't heard that name before, at least not in that form, but you will see that it is something you actually know. In 3D, the components are the individual parts of a three-dimensional object. In geometry, there are three fundamental components of a polyhedron: the vertex, which is a point where edges meet, the edges, which are the line segments connecting vertices, and the faces, which are the flat surfaces enclosed by edges. Imagine a paper model like the origami I have right here with me. In fact, each component, whether the vertex or the faces, is like a part of this model, like a corner. That's it. A line is this, and a face is this. So far we agree. So, in fact, these components are the vertex, edges, and faces. These components define the geometry and structure of the object, and it is them that essentially allow us to model. So in fact, we have the important vertex. The vertex is the vertices or individual points. They are the corners, the famous corners of the model. With a cube, we have each corner, which is a point. So we have this point here, this point there, this point over here, this point right here, 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 and of course, the one at the back. So these are the vertex, which we could call points. But in 3D, we call them vertex. We have the edges, what we can call stops, but the same. We will stay in the English language of 3D, so we will call them the edges. And the edges are the lines between the vertices. So we are indeed talking about that. By connecting two corners with a pencil, you get the edge. So for example, if I do this, this is my edge. Okay, so I can create one here, and one here, and one there, and also one there, and so on. In this way, one here too as well. So these are edges. I will mark it as an edge, edge. These are called vertex points. What are we missing? We are missing the faces. So the faces are the surfaces between the edges. By coloring a part of the paper, as I did earlier, between two edges, we have a face. So in between this edge and the two edges, we can clearly see that there is a face, but that gives us, of course, four edges. So we have everything. We have the vertex, which are these points, the edges, and here we have this, hop. Here we have the faces, and so we have a face here as well, and we have a face here too. So this is really the foundation of 3D. These are the components, and it's super important to understand this. So I invite you to maybe take a screenshot of this. Anyway, I will make one too, and it will be in the resources related to the tutorial. So as I said, these components are super important, and by using these components we can build and manipulate
3D objects in Maya, in the same way as when one ultimately manipulates a paper model in the real world. I think we have all made cube patterns, maybe some origami, some constructions, like that little chicken if I remember the name correctly. So here we are. We have all ultimately known the components. It's just that in 3D, it's really something we use on a daily basis, and it's our way of working. So it's nice to see all of this, but we will see how we manipulate these components. So I will erase, and I will slide this here, now that we no longer have it. So we will go back to our viewport, and I will show you that. So we have learned, again, to move scale, and rotate our mesh as a whole. Now we will be able to select components and move them individually, one by one. To do this, we will right-click on our mesh, and by right-clicking and holding it down, we will have access to a lot of information. We are currently in object mode, which is the mode we are in. That is to say, the object mode, meaning we have the mesh as a whole that we can move, rotate, or resize. Essentially. And there we have everything else indeed. These are the components in object mode. We have the edge that will allow us to easily and efficiently select each and every one of the edges of our cubes. Then we can also use Shift to easily and efficiently select multiple edges, such as we can switch back to object mode to reset and go back to our mesh. We have seen the edges and we have the vertex, our famous points. You see, they are highlighted in red so that we can see them clearly. Similarly, we can select them, and we can even select multiple ones. We switch back to object mode, and we have the last one. The last component is the faces. So the faces are the same, meaning that we can select multiple faces, or none. It's the same thing. There you go. So we have our three main components that we can select whenever we want, but of course, we can do more than just select them. We can do a lot of other things with them. So I right-click on the object, and then I will switch to the vertex mode. I select the corner on the left, and you will see that we can do a little bit of whatever we want. And there you are starting to understand that it is due to this that we will succeed in creating shapes. So we can do that. But we can't necessarily rotate them because they are points. Points that don't necessarily have coordinates in terms of rotation. Necessarily. But on the other hand, if we choose to, we will definitely be able to rotate them. We press Ctrl-Z. Now we will return to the origin. We will do the same for the edges. We will be able to move them as we see fit, at any time. We can move two of them, if necessary. If I press Ctrl-Z as well, we can select everything here and move the entirety of our edge. This is somewhat similar to moving our face. I don't know if you see that. I want to get to the point, but if you want, if we select all those edges, it's as if we are selecting our face above. So, we can also easily and quickly select our face and bam, effortlessly. Similarly, we can take two and bam. So there you go, that's a little bit of the basics. And that's where we will start to begin modeling. So here I took a cube, but we can very well take a sphere. And there you will quickly understand a bit better. So here I can take a face here. And move it carefully. We will take a face from the other side. And precisely. She moved. And there. We have little ears, you know. If that's not beautiful. So if you want to deselect the faces, you make a selection outside of your object. By the way, if you want to select multiple faces, you can do it like this. By holding Shift as we saw. You can also simply make a global selection by holding the left click and dragging. So this is perfect, except that your mesh is in 3 dimensions and it has a front face and a back face. And by doing that, it will not only select this, but it will also select what is behind. So really pay attention to this, because here if we want to select this kind of ear, it will be useful. But on the other hand, if we want to select just these 6 squares here, it will select other things here. So be very careful about that. Sometimes it's better to prioritize the Shift key. But there is a little method, a little trick that some may not know. By holding down your Tab key, you get a little bit of extra that normally appears. There you go. Just like that. And there, if you hold the left click and drag, you can see that you can make a much more advanced selection, rather than selecting one face at a time. So with this Tab key, it's really handy. This is truly a super effective tool. And It allows you to modify your mesh very quickly. You see, we can do that here too. It goes smoothly. And of course, here I only did the move, but as I mentioned, we can also do the rotate, and we can also, I reselect using the tab key. We can scale it to the object, and voila. We can give it a completely different size than in that section, in a way that is significantly more noticeable and impactful. There you go. Our object doesn't look like much, but it's your first modeling. Congratulations to you. You've finally made it. And this is just the beginning. You'll see we're going to do a lot of other great things. Another little tip for selection, because it's really very important, is that you'll be able to select what we call loops, meaning entire lines of faces. For example, I would like to select all of those faces. I can do that with all these faces by making a selection, provided that I align them properly. Understanding the mode. I want to do it like this, except that. So here it worked well for me, which is great. But let's imagine that my camera isn't completely straight. And now, when I try to do this, it's a hassle. I can't get into position. You see, I'm selecting things that I don't want to select. What we can do is select a face here, hold Shift, and press twice on the adjacent face. Let me rephrase that. We press on the face we want, and if we want the whole mesh, we hold down. And here we double click on the adjacent face, and bam, we have our loop selected. And we can reduce it, increase it, move it. We can do pretty much everything. Of course, we don't forget those right clicks to return to object mode. You'll see it's the same. It will become second nature. You can do it anywhere. You see, bam. So that's really quite fascinating and incredibly interesting to observe. I want to revisit the selection process and understand the steps involved. If you have selected some items and then realize that you do not want these two particular faces right here, what should you do in this particular situation? So you are going to tell me yes. We will make a selection here and we will start again. And there we are good. So yes, very well. But believe me, when you have to do it a lot, you will get tired of having to redo your selection and maybe even make a mistake a second time and do this and no longer be able to go back to zero. And so you will be forced to do this, forced to. There is definitely a solution, of course, so I select, or perhaps I press tab, of course, and there I selected a bit too high. I don't want to do that at all. We saw that to select faces, you use Shift to delete them, to quote, to select rather to deselect, you press Ctrl and a small minus sign appears. To proceed, you simply need to click on the faces that are displayed on your screen. This action will allow you to select and interact with the specific faces you want to focus on. And there you go. So now we are all set and we can just simply and absolutely modify whatever we want. Another thing in the selection of components that are extremely important and should be considered very carefully. Moreover, you see that if I switch back to object mode and reselect face, it definitely remembers our previous selection. So that can also be useful. Let's say I want to give my kind of horrible monster small eyes, for example. I really admit it, indeed. So there are other ways to do this, of course, but we can delete faces in the geometry. You just need to select a face, making sure you are in face mode, and then you delete it. And there we are. Now we have faces. And in fact, we have cut our mesh. We have the inside of the mesh, which is all black, and we have cut the mesh. So this is something to know, and it will still be useful for deleting faces. It can be very, very interesting.